Welcome to CC Leap's first and likely only webinar of 2025, a bright idea on bill financing for battery storage projects. I'll pass it to Taylor very briefly to provide some quick housekeeping, and then we can dive in.
Yeah, so you might have seen a notification that the webinar is being recorded. We'll be sure to send out an email with that recording after today. You are automatically set as muted, but we'll have a Q&A at the end, and you can unmute at that time and ask your questions, or feel free to drop your questions in the chat or Q&A function. Definitely post those anytime and we'll address them throughout the presentation or have that time at the end to talk through them. And then if you have any technical issues during the webinar, you can chat me directly or you can send me a quick email at trossetti@energycoalition.org. I'll be hanging out throughout the course of the webinar and available if you have any technical issues. And that's it for me. Back to you, Carba.
Awesome. Thank you, Taylor. Lovely. Well, we have a stacked agenda today and a panel that I'm very excited about. We will start with introductions. From there, the team over at Verergy will do a technology spotlight on battery energy storage systems. From there, we'll pass it to Annie Secrest at the County of San Luis Obispo on how they've applied and implemented the best systems throughout the county. And from there, we'll go over to Brandon with the County of Santa Barbara on their use of on-bill financing. And then it'll go to me very briefly to tie it all together with CC Leap support. And then we'll have some time at the end for some peer learning, some Q&A, any questions that y'all might have, and close it out for the morning. Awesome. So to start, I am Karba Eckley. I'm a program manager at the Energy Coalition. I have the privilege and honor of overseeing the Central Coast Leaders in Energy Action Program, or CC Leap. I'll give an overview later, but we offer kind of no-cost services to the Central Coast Energy Services to folks. And from there, I'll pass it to Amanda.
Thanks. So I'm Amanda Maki. I am a senior energy engineer with Verergy, and we're a technical subconsultant with the Energy Coalition. Meraal.
Thank you. I'm Meraal Abutaha, and I work as an energy engineer also at Verergy with Amanda. Annie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Annie Secrest, and I am the sustainability manager at the County of SLO. And I've been working for the county for about 8.5 years, and just recently transitioned over to the airport department after being in public works for 7 years. So I'll transition it to Brandon.
Morning, folks. Glad to be here with everyone. My name is Brandon Kaysen. I'm the County of Santa Barbara's energy manager. I work in our general services department. And it's my joy and pleasure to kind of oversee all of the energy efficiency, renewable energy, EV charging, et cetera, projects that the county owns and operates.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. From there, oh my gosh, there you are. We'll pass it to the Verergy team to give an overview.
Awesome. Thanks, Karba. So Meraal and I will be giving an introduction to what battery energy storage systems are, how they can benefit your buildings, and then what type of things you should consider when thinking about implementing one of these projects. So I'll start things off with what are BESS, or battery energy storage systems. They are devices that store electricity and then discharges it when it's needed. They are most commonly lithium-ion batteries that store energy as electrochemical potential, and they can be standalone systems or paired with solar PV systems on site. They use intelligent software to optimize the storing and discharging of energy, and lithium-ion systems typically have a RTE, or round-trip efficiency, between 77 and 95%. So this means that there is some loss of energy when you're charging and then discharging the battery. Some key performance metrics to keep in mind when looking at batteries is the discharge capacity in kW. So that's the maximum instantaneous discharge power. And then there's the storage capacity in kWh, which is the maximum energy that can be stored in the battery. And then duration in hours. So that's the ratio between the two capacities. So it's equivalent to how long the system can deliver maximum power for. So for example, a 60 kilowatt hour battery will provide 30 kilowatts of power for about 2 hours. Next slide. And so what are some benefits of installing one of these systems? First one I'll speak to is cost savings. So you can use batteries for energy arbitrage. So that is using the system to charge when energy costs are low and then discharging it when costs are high. So this is applicable when you are on the time of use utility rates. Can also use it for peak shaving. So the battery will discharge during peak demand periods and then reduce demand, and this will reduce your demand costs. So that's shown on the graph here on the right. So you could see this, the blue line is, a typical building that uses less energy in the morning hours and the late afternoon hours, and then has their peak demand in the middle of the day. And then using a battery, you can charge the battery during those low load times in the beginning and end of the day, and then discharge that battery in the middle of the day when you hit your peak demand. So that is shown with the red line. So that's going to be your load after peak shaving. And you can also use a battery to increase your solar energy usage. So the battery will store excess solar energy produced during the day and then discharge it when there's no more solar energy available. And I think next slide will show the next one. So batteries can also help with resiliency. They can serve as backup power for critical loads during a power outage. The chart on the right here is from an LA Times article. Thanks, Carba, for forwarding that to us. It's very applicable, I think, showing that batteries can also be used on a larger scale. So this shows the total capacity of battery storage systems on the California electric grid. And the article is interesting because it stated that California actually hasn't issued an emergency plea for public to conserve energy. So they call it a flex alert. So they haven't called a flex alert since 2022. And experts credit much of this progress to the increase in battery energy storage systems in the recent years. So you could see from the graph that battery storage in California has grown more than 3,000% since 2020. And the last benefit here, sustainability. So as I mentioned, you can pair the battery with solar so that the facility is able to use more solar energy by storing the excess amount and using it when there's no solar energy available. So this will reduce the carbon footprint of the facility by lowering the emissions from purchased electricity. Slide. And so when you're thinking about implementing a battery energy storage system, here are just some things to consider. So first being some technical considerations. You want to understand the system size and what it will serve in the building, so that your desired load profile, duration, and application needed. You also will want to consider the space and location of the physical battery. So the actual battery can require significant space depending on, the size of the capacity of the battery and the battery chemistry. And also grid capacity and load integration. So the closer a battery is installed to a substation or high capacity feeder, the better. In some cases, a step up or down transformer may be required for installation. And financial considerations. So batteries do tend to have a high upfront cost. So it does range between $1,000 to $2,000 per kilowatt hour of capacity. So for example, 60 kilowatt hour battery, which is a quite small size battery can be anywhere from $60,000 to $120,000. And it's always important to think about the safety and compliance standards. So how the battery is charged and discharged is important for operating the system safely. Having a good battery management system is important because the management system will prevent the battery from being pushed beyond its limits. And then you want to ensure the system is installed following appropriate standards. So I listed here just two of the standards from the National Fire Protection Association and then the ANSI safety standard that are applicable to battery energy storage system installations. And
Amanda, and I'll just jump
yes.
in real quick to provide a quick regulatory update
Mhm.
on this as well, given the context of what happened earlier in the year in Moss Landing in California. Governor Newsom just in the last week or two signed Senate Bill 283, which was a law kind of following what happened here, and it requires battery storage developers to consult with local fire authorities before permitting to review designs, risks, and emergency response plans. So, Senate Bill 283 just passed, so it's something to consider for much larger projects. And we can follow up with some fact sheets and stuff too after this.
Thanks, Carva. And then lastly, utility interconnection process. So this is where you have to work with your utility when implementing a battery energy storage system. It can impact the intended schedule due to the utility studies and potential grid updates that may be needed for the installation and estimated time frame based off previous projects. There's a wide range, anywhere from 1.5 months to 5 months for this process. And then I will pass it to Meraal.
Thanks, Amanda. So now that we've discussed how battery storage systems work and what goes into their design, we can talk about at which sites they make the most sense for installation. So starting with the first category, we'll have facilities with high energy bills or large demand charges. These are buildings that draw a lot of power at once. So they may be used during midday operations when HVAC systems, lighting systems, and all equipment are functioning at the same time together and all on peak together as well. So a BESS can discharge during those high load periods, reducing the site's peak demand and cutting expensive utility demand charges. So let's say, for example, we're focusing on a school district where they're running multiple air-conditioned classrooms in the afternoon at once. Those those systems can actually use the stored energy from the morning to flatten the demand curve and avoid thousands of dollars in monthly costs. Focusing on our second category, we'll have the critical facilities. For these facilities, resilience is the driver. A BESS provides uninterruptible power during outages or grid instability and can be paired with a generator that may already exist on site or solar to extend the coverage for hours and sometimes even days. In public safety or healthcare, the reliability is essentially life-saving and is really important in those cases as well. The third category will focus on sites with existing or planned solar. Batteries enable self-consumption of renewable energy by storing the excess solar generation produced during the day and discharging it in the evening when solar drops off. This not only boosts the solar utilization of that site, but also gives facilities more energy independence, which is especially valuable as time of use rates continue to rise. And finally, facilities located in regions with grid constraints or time of use pricing, as I just mentioned. If you're in an area where electricity prices swing dramatically throughout the day, a BESS lets you buy low and use high. So it'll charge during the off-peak, low-cost hours and discharge when rates are the highest. This process, as Amanda mentioned, is known as energy arbitrage and can yield impressive long-term savings while helping the utility maintain a stable grid. So as you look at the graphics on this slide, you'll have those bright, well-lit campuses and hospitals. These are the best candidates for, utilizing the best system since they do have high usage and can deliver significant energy profiles where storage deliver both financial returns and resilience value throughout it as well. Next slide. Well, now we're going to flip the question and focus on the sites that would benefit least from a battery energy storage system. First, you'll have your low load or low usage buildings. When a building doesn't consume much power, there's simply not enough savings to justify the cost of the system installation. Even with the incentives, the payback period can go upwards of 15 to 20 years, which typically does not fit within public sector budget cycles. You'll also have sites with limited electrical capacity or space constraints. Many older downtown buildings or campus buildings will have undersized switchgears or not enough outdoor space to truly house the batteries enclosures safely, as mentioned within the regulations. In dense urban areas, you'll also have, it'll be challenging to find a compliant location that meets the fire safety standards that Amanda did mention, such as the NFPA 855. You'll also have facilities with uncertain or declining future usage. So, if a site may be renovated, repurposed, or even decommissioned in a few years, a battery energy storage system becomes less useful. Best projects are long-term commitments, often 10 years or more, so you would need the confidence that the facility will continue throughout that horizon. In these cases, it makes more sense to start with lower cost efficiency measures like HVAC upgrades, LED lighting, or building controls that deliver quick wins and lay the groundwork for future potential battery energy storage system installation. So the takeaway here is essentially alignment. With large, always-on facilities, they are great candidates for best systems, while smaller or temporary sites should wait until the energy profile justifies that investment. And now for the last slide of my section, we're going to focus on how do we pay for a BESS, since they do tend to be pretty costly. Fortunately, there are several robust funding and incentive pathways available right now, starting with the Self-Generation Incentive Program, or SGIP. This is California's flagship storage incentive, which is funded through investor-owned utilities. For qualifying public sector critical facilities, low-income customers, or equity resiliency projects, SGIP provides rebates between $850 to $1,000 per kilowatt hour of installed capacity. That can equate to hundreds of thousands of dollars in funding per project, which is great. We'll also have the Federal Investment Tax Credit, or ITC. With the Inflation Reduction Act, standalone energy storage now qualifies for up to 30% on total installed cost. And importantly, for school districts and local government, the new direct pay provision means non-taxable entities can receive that credit as a cash payment. So it essentially functions like a grant. That has opened the door for public agencies that previously couldn't take advantage of federal incentives. And finally, we have on-bill financing, OBF, which will be discussed further in this presentation, but just to give a brief intro to it, this is a PG&E funded zero-interest financing program that allows agencies to install clean energy projects, whether efficiency upgrades or energy storage, with no upfront capital. The cost is repaid directly through the monthly utility bills using the savings generated by the project itself. And the combination of these three incentive programs creates a powerful funding stack that can help alleviate the financial burden of a battery energy storage project. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Meraal and Amanda. With that, we will pass it on to Annie.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So nice to speak to you today. So like Brandon's role, my former role focused on managing the county's municipal energy portfolio. And so that really meant like tracking our use and our costs, and then developing solutions for managing those variables, such as the solar project and the batteries we're going to talk about today. So I'm excited to share how we've been unlocking resilience at our facilities through our 5 battery projects. And all 5 of our projects are in high fire threat districts and are in or serving low income communities. So our projects fall into 2 categories: buildings and water infrastructure. And on the water side, that includes a water treatment plant. And then we have 2 sites that are actually part of the Nacimiento water pipeline. We have a water intake station with 500 horsepower pumps. So like huge energy demand, huge energy user. But then we also have a booster station that has 400 horsepower pumps. So like tons of demand at these water sites. So we prioritize these sites because they serve disadvantaged communities. We had some grid interruptions with some of the facilities, and they use and demand tons of energy. And backup power was definitely part of the appeal, but the real driver for these projects was energy savings from peak shaving and energy arbitrage. On the building side, our 2 facilities were health agency facilities. And 3 of the 5 sites in this portfolio are enterprise departments. And so if you're from local government, you understand that means they're operating their own budgets. So being able to lower electricity costs at those sites directly benefits the ratepayers of those systems. All right, so the spark for all of this came in July 2020 when, nobody was doing anything. We didn't have anything else to do. And the SCHIP Equity Resiliency Program bucket was replenished. And you heard a little bit about that before, but this specific funding stream can cover nearly the entire cost of a battery system, as long as it meets the right criteria. Things like being in a high fire threat district or serving a disadvantaged community, being a critical facility. And the catch with that, like a lot of these programs, is that it's first come, first served, which is really tricky when you're a local government, and really tricky when you're a local government with only one person managing energy at the county. And so timeline, my first conversation with Tesla, was who we ended up working with, was in very late July. And once my director gave me the green light to refocus my priorities on this opportunity, I went through our entire portfolio to find sites that would meet the technical considerations we heard Amanda and Meraal talk about earlier. And then 5 weeks later, our water infrastructure sites were in front of the board of supervisors. And a couple of weeks after that, our building sites followed. And if you work in local government, especially ones that has like a lot of bureaucratic processes, that's like lightning fast. And we prioritize our water sites first because they had stronger energy profiles and more of a community benefit, right? They're like delivering water to customers, delivering water to different cities so they can deliver it to their customers. So we wanted to make sure that those had the full chance at funding. And by the time that we applied for the building sites, just a couple weeks after we had applied for the water infrastructure sites, the program was technically oversubscribed at that point, which just shows how competitive this funding is. It wasn't even 2 months later at that point from when we had the initial conversation. So next slide. Our batteries have been performing really well so far. And my favorite example of this came out of the 2023 storms when our water treatment plant lost power. And before the batteries, we had a lot of service interruptions at this particular site. And whenever there was any kind of service interruption, it would glitch equipment and force a restart. And so this was something that our operators were dealing with. These are like real hiccups that the site feels they have to manage every time there's any kind of hiccup in the electricity. And so during the storm event, no one even realized that the grid had gone down until the battery was fully depleted and the generator took over automatically in the morning. And, my response is like, wow, the battery worked exactly how it's supposed to. But sometimes you really need to have the proof of concept for people to really understand the gravity of how beneficial these systems could be. Financially, the numbers speak for themselves. We added over $6 million in assets to our infrastructure and facilities at no cost to us. And our long-term energy savings are predicted at more than $5 million. But an equally important impact for us is ensuring that we have uninterrupted service for critical sites. And we can now show that we're, really committed to energy resilience and sustainability for our critical services that we're providing the community. Like any project, there were challenges, and some of them weren't the ones that we would expect. First was bandwidth. If you're working at a local government or really anywhere, you just kind of understand. Sometimes things land on your desk suddenly, and it just completely changes the trajectory of your workload and engulfs all your priorities. And getting the initial buy-in for the projects took time too. For the water pipeline projects, this is a 45-mile pipeline that goes throughout the county and touches different cities and different community service areas. And so we had to go through different commissions and multiple partner agencies to get approval. And a lot of folks weren't familiar with battery energy storage. And it was seen mostly as like a green concept, which is not a selling point in some parts of our county. So the case really came down to showing the savings and the operational benefits. And so at the booster station, our operator, who was dealing in a facility that regularly had grid interruptions, he was one of our biggest advocates because he knew that the batteries would help smooth out the power supply at that particular facility. And that was going to help with the equipment that was running and really prolong the life of the equipment. So that really helped win our stakeholders over. On the building side, there was a lot of confusion because these were our first battery projects. And so we weren't really sure how to handle insurance. We weren't sure if we had to indemnify anyone for this new asset type. So that took a lot of time to work out also, and involved, external agent entities buying in. And then, of course, we had grid interconnection delays. You heard about that a couple slides ago. One site in particular, their upgrades were estimated at going to take 2 years. And so that required getting our elected official to step in to get things moving so we could actually interconnect our batteries in a reasonable time frame.
So, Annie, just quick question there. You got it from 2 years down to how short for the interconnection? I know before we said 1.5 to like 5 months or something, but
Yeah,
where
it was several months,
got it.
but it was much quicker than the couple years that were estimated.
Yikes. All right.
Yeah, yikes is right. So looking back on, lessons learned, I think this is really important. When funding becomes available, you have to move quickly and you have to stay flexible. And for us at the County of SLO, we had a couple other instances, when the big NEM changes were happening, that sort of set the precedent for sometimes things come up and you just completely have to change the trajectory of your workload. So speed and being nimble can make or break your chances to being able to take advantage of some of this funding. Second, find your internal champions early. Like I said, the operators at our water sites, they know the systems inside and out. They know it more than I ever will. And so really understanding what their pain points are and trying to see if we can provide them with another tool in their toolkit, like these batteries, can help make their jobs easier and help makes them get on board and support the project, and help others be comfortable with the new technology. Talking to peers was also really valuable for us, even in this very, very compressed timeline before we went to the Board of Supervisors. I was able to speak with some other agencies up north who had gone through battery installations at similar types of sites, so water infrastructure sites in particular, to really help resolve some of those issues and answer some of those questions that our stakeholders had. And then to our future outlook, we're now using our facility condition assessment program to identify different opportunities for DER at the county. So for example, when a building is due for a new roof, it might be a really great time to pair it with solar and battery. And so that's how we'll be able to grow our renewable portfolio in like a very strategic way. So even though, these projects were fully funded, they were not easy, shockingly so. And it just took a lot of quick action and persistence and a lot of coordination. But the batteries have proven that they're worth it. Our staff love having the batteries at their facilities, and we're now able to provide the services to our community, even during grid outages. So I just think it's a great reminder that even if you have a small team, you can still deliver big projects when you move fast and everyone stays together and stays focused on the impact. So with that, I'll pass it over to Brandon.
Thanks, Annie. Brandon.
All right, that's me. So today I'll be sharing a little bit of my experience implementing a large-scale LED lighting upgrade. We had selected an 11 building portfolio in our Foster Road campus. So this is in Santa Maria in PG&E's service territory. So taking a peek at how we have utilized PG&E's on-bill financing program in partnership with our friends at CC Leap. So this project involved, again, 11 buildings, 2,444 lamps, so both indoor and exterior lamps. Part of this project, we were very set on having advanced control capabilities. So this includes sensor view for remote monitoring, as well as some manipulation that we can facilitate at my desk. So it was very convenient to be able to respond to customer complaints, concerns, or requests for adjustment from my desk in Santa Barbara at these projects. The total project cost was $1.4 million. And, as we do in local government, have to get creative with how we fund things at times. You can see on the left here, of that $1.4 million, 980,000 is coming from the PG&E on-bill financing program. We were also allocated just over $230,000 from the Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant. So that was federal funding that came through, earmarked for the county to be used for clean tech, renewable energy, energy efficiency projects. So we elected to use that here. Our partners, Verergy, who's the contractor that implemented the project, said, hey, there's a tax credit that we can take advantage of, and we'll do that on your behalf. So they were able to help us out with $50,000. And then to round things out and make the project come to life, the county did contribute about $157,000 from the general fund. And from an investment standpoint, this is a really strong performing project. In year one, we're able to save over $100,000 in electricity costs. At least that's our expected savings for year one. We don't have a year since the project has been completed yet, so that's based on historic use. And we're projecting about $2.8 million in total savings over 15 years. And fingers crossed, hopefully these lights last for longer than that. We're hoping for 18 to 20 if maintained well. And that's assuming an 8% annual utility rate increase, which is a number that's always difficult to pinpoint. If anyone's looked at their notices from the utility, I think I got a notice of a 13% increase this last year. So, 5%, 8%, 10%, it's hard to pick. So we picked 8. That translates to about $1.3 million in net savings over that 15-year period. And of course, this includes savings after the project has been repaid to the utility. And just one final thing, we did not include any maintenance savings in our calculations, but we have already received feedback from our facilities maintenance folks that they've experienced reduced work orders, and folks in the buildings have mentioned their, how much they've appreciated the improved lighting quality in their spaces. Okay, so since on-bill financing comes with a 0% interest loan that is bill neutral by design, meaning those monthly payments should reflect how much the building is saving on a monthly basis. All the repayments come directly from the energy savings on the utility bill. One of the greatest features of on-bill financing from the county's perspective is that the tenants in the building end up paying for and benefiting from the project at large. This frees up capital for general services and others that allow us to do more work than maybe we would have been able to otherwise. So that's a really important thing to consider. So now the process, and really this is where CC Leap and their support made the difference for us. So starting about 2 years ago, we performed a site audit with Verergy to determine the existing conditions, the project scope, the feasibility of using on-bill financing as a funding mechanism. And then shortly thereafter, CC Leap and Verergy supported the county with our OBF application. Once approved, the county had to ensure that there was appropriate funds in place to execute the installation phase, and we talked about those various funding sources. And then the county decided to partner with Verergy for the installation phase. We did use government code 4217 to execute the contract, and the nice thing about that, it helps streamline um, the negotiation process, and we get to avoid going out and performing a public bid. So we're currently finalizing the OBF application phase, and we'll receive the loan here very shortly. So that $970,000 loan will be received upon completion and verification, and then repaid through the energy savings over the 10-year period. The key players were our internal team, so myself, the capital projects team and general services, as well as our facilities maintenance staff. Of course, you can't ignore the tenants in the building as their primary stakeholders. The external contractors for implementing the lighting project, CC Leap staff, and PG&E staff. And as mentioned, this project took about 2 years from ideation to completion. Well, it's no surprise. Every project has its challenges, and this one was no exception. And as Alec Jones would say, there's only opportunities for improvement, for learning, for doing better. And a lot of this project went really well, and depending on how you look at it, it was a great success in my eyes. We had to manage a lot of logistics across multiple buildings. Doing a project that includes 11 buildings and all the tenants in all those buildings is a feat of scheduling mastery. And so coordinating those schedules to minimize disruptions was a primary goal for us. And while we were able to fund the advanced controls component, which was really important to us, we did have to manage some expectations with regard to what could be accomplished and funded through the on-bill financing program. So, for example, there were some buildings within our portfolio that really needed new fixtures. So, not just the lamp and ballasts, but the fixture as a whole. And there were some cases where we could only fund the replacement of the lamps and the ballasts. Right? The fixtures themselves don't produce energy savings, so it's difficult to include some of those other costs in the project. So that was not the case for every building. In some scenarios, there was a really nice kit that we could replace with, and so when it was the right fit, we actually did get a whole fixture replacement. But that left some customers saying, why didn't my neighbor get something better than me? So we had to navigate that and do a little bit of education with regard to what we were able to do. In hindsight, setting those expectations earlier on would have done, it would have been really good for us to do. We also learned that fixture specifications and lead times can vary widely. So staying flexible and communicating early with our vendors was really important. Across those 11 buildings were different specs and different solutions for what was existing. So while you may think that every building got the exact same solution, that's certainly not the case. Not everything on our wish list could be funded through OBF alone, but it did give us a great foundation for future projects and how we intend to improve the buildings moving forward. So we're currently going through our punch list and determining what needs to or could be done to tie up any loose ends, make sure that our customers and stakeholders are really happy with the end product. And there may be a little bit of follow-up, but overall, the project was a great success and a lot of good lessons learned. So with that, the results do speak for themselves, and this project really is a big win for the county. We're able to conserve 441,000 kilowatt hours annually. We've reduced demand by 69 kilowatts. save over $100,000 in electricity costs in year one, and that is expected to increase year over year. And beyond the numbers, we also saw a big improvement in lighting quality, reduced maintenance costs, a more comfortable working environment. So across the board, we see that as really big wins for us. Okay, so some takeaways. One, I recommend starting with a financial grade energy audit and set really clear, realistic expectations. And that goes for those that are working on the project, the facilities maintenance staff who ultimately will be left with maintaining the system over time, and the individuals in the workspaces. If you can, keep your initial scope manageable. In hindsight, 11 buildings was a lot to chew for us. And if we had taken that in chunks, I believe that we could have implemented some of the lessons learned kind of midway or throughout the process. Um, we have really wanted to get these projects done for a very long time, so we were excited to get it done. And I think in hindsight, if we would have slowed down a little bit, we could have avoided we could have done some damage control. Engage facility staff early, again, get them involved in the planning process as much as you can, and take advantage of on-bill financing, the no interest structure for high savings to cost projects. And remember, it's okay if OBF doesn't cover 100% of everything that you want to achieve. You can use it strategically to build momentum for broader sustainability goals, and it provides a funding base for a lot of what you need to get done. Finding additional funds to add to the OBF loan is a viable pathway, certainly, to achieve what everybody wants, but it requires some planning. And in some cases, if you say, "Hey, I have this amount. If we just add a little more, we can gain X, Y, Z." So having that base, dollar amount oftentimes brings more to the table, and the project can become a reality. Much more than if you're like, "Hey, we don't have any money to spend on this, and we need some help." So, in a nutshell, this project did demonstrate how strategic partnerships, creative financing, a strong teamwork can turn energy efficiency goals into real tangible results. So that closes it out for me, and I'll hand it back to Carva.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandon and Annie. Two slam dunks in my eyes. Those are really awesome projects, and glad to see that were completed. So I'll close this out here before the Q&A and tie it all together. Again, I am Karba from the CC Leap team. CC Leap, or Central Coast Leaders in Energy Action Program, is a one-stop shop that provides no-cost energy services to public agencies and businesses in the PG&E territory of the Central Coast. So that is Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, and San Benito counties. We offer customized project management, engineering, and financing support so that energy retrofit opportunities are identified and installed at facilities. So Brandon just did an amazing job showcasing how OBF, or on-bill financing, is done in practice. I'm going to go kind of rewind very briefly and go back to the very basics. So at a very high level, for those who aren't like very familiar with on-bill financing, like has been mentioned, it's an interest-free loan that's paid through the regular monthly utility bill to purchase and install equipment. It is available to any PG&E business or public sector account customer who pays their bills on time and has good credit. And the loan amount is determined by, and I'll add a little laser pointer here. The loan amount is determined by taking the cost of the project that you have in mind and subtracting any energy efficiency incentives or rebates that you may gain from the energy efficiency measures, and then also subtracting any optional down payments. Like Brandon mentioned, the county had some like $147,000 that they included in their project for the lighting. So Once you have that, that loan amount can range from a minimum of $5,000 to $250,000 per site. And if there's significant energy savings, PG&E is even willing to go up to $4 million per site. And once you have your loan amount determined, you divide that amount by the anticipated monthly savings from the energy efficiency efforts, and that gives you the monthly loan term. So you have up to 120 months or 10 years as a maximum loan term amount, and that's the high level of how OBF is structured. And the exciting thing is now customers have the opportunity to include battery energy storage projects in their OBF loan applications. So PG&E has expanded the eligible project costs to improvements like electrical panel upgrades should they be needed, as well as clean energy technologies, which includes battery energy storage systems and electric vehicle charging infrastructures. I'll note they use the terminology clean energy technologies, but photovoltaic solar is currently not included in that scope. So clean energy tech is BESS or EV charging infrastructure. So now customers can include up to 50% of loan funds towards these additional projects. And as you can see in this example here, we have a $2 million energy efficiency project, and the hospital campus is dedicating an additional $2 million to a large battery storage unit and a couple dozen level 2 chargers. So here, I'm not going to go into super detail on this, but you can see the key eligibility requirements to apply for OBF and expand with a battery energy storage project. First, both the equipment and the project developer must be listed on the approved SGIP directory list. The system must be properly sized up to the site's peak demand over the previous 12-month period. And then for standalone storage, it needs at least 20% of that peak demand in discharge capacity. Then the regular installers need to hold an active license. The projects do need an operations and maintenance plan that describes the services and trainings to staff. And then you'll also need a plan to provide PG&E with discharge data, comply with local permitting, and finally, you'll need to obtain permission to operate before the loan can be approved. So you might be thinking to yourself, just based on Annie and Brandon's stories, like, this sounds great, but honestly, an energy efficiency or lighting project has a way different timeline than an energy storage project. So like that sounds super difficult to package into one loan. Luckily, there's already a solution to this. Customers can take out two separate on-bill financing loans, one for energy efficiency measures like lighting, HVAC, or insulation, and then one for the clean energy measures like EV charging stations or battery storage, while still treating them as one connected overall project. So how that works, the energy efficiency project comes first. OBF at its core is an energy efficiency financing tool, and the scope of the energy efficiency project sets the loan term for both loans. So however long the energy efficiency loan is, the battery energy storage loan follows that same timeline. The storage loan can't be larger than the energy efficiency loan in dollar value. And so the energy storage loan can also be started within 2 years of the energy efficiency loan being signed, and then paid out within 2 years after the energy efficiency loan is completed. And in unique cases, like say there's long service delays or issues with the interconnection request or something, PG&E can grant exceptions to these kind of time constraints. So Lastly, contractors do need to clearly show how costs are split between the energy efficiency and energy storage portions when submitting project documentation. But in short, PG&E has tried to make this a lot more flexible. You can move forward with your lighting or HVAC upgrades now and still add storage or EV chargers to your site later on, all under one coordinated OBF project, which is super exciting. And here is a nice example of how that might look. On the left here, you've got a standard energy efficiency project, let's say lighting or HVAC. The project costs $100,000, so the total OBF charge on the bill is going to be about $833 per month over 10 years or 120 months. Now, on the right, we've added a clean energy component like battery storage or EV charging, which brings the total project cost up to $150,000 because the battery storage or EV charger costs $50,000. Because the two loans are tracked together, you'll now see two line items on the bill, one for that EE portion and another for the clean energy portion, totaling $1,250 per month. And both, like I mentioned before, share that same 120-month, 10-year loan term, but they're handled under separate agreements, which gives you flexibility to finance both without delaying one project for the other. And of course, your CC Lead project manager can help you figure out which OBF level fits your project best and can guide you through the paperwork. That is what we're here for. We can support you from start to finish. We can help you with benchmarking, the audits, project identification to find savings opportunities and prepare the OBF applications, move you through procurement, construction, and then close out, celebrate the completed projects. Our goal is simple. We want to provide unbiased advice and help you save time, money, and energy. And with that, I'd love to open it up to any questions folks may have about battery energy storage systems, OBF, the CC Leap project process, or anything else. And here is contact information as well. But thank you all, and curious to see if folks have any questions. Not sure if we have any in the chat yet. I don't think I can see the Q&A.
I did see Nia or Naya had a question. I'm gonna add your audio so you can ask your question now. Yeah.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, Naya.
Awesome. Hi, good to see you, Carva. Great job. I had a question about eligibility for OBF. Are nonprofit businesses and house of worship buildings eligible to access OBF?
That is a great question, and I still need to confirm that. But if it is if it is a commercial business account, or it qualifies as that under PG&E, it should be eligible. But I will confirm.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, the same eligibility requirements would apply in terms of a year's worth of paying bills on time and having good credit.
Carva, I have a question actually about the OBF with the clean energy add-on. Does the energy project need to be on the same SAID as the energy project? I assume yes.
Yeah, it would need
Okay.
to be at the same site and the same, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question. But yeah, the ability to have two separate kind of loans to track at one site for energy efficiency and clean energy is definitely a nice way for folks to do both, but go kind of in parallel tracks.
Yeah, I wish that was available when we did our OBF project here at the airport years ago.
Yeah, right. That happened a long time ago. This wasn't available yet.
Hi, one more question.
Of course.
Um, I know that CC Lead partners or really covers PG&E territories, but I also saw that SoCal Gas offers an OBF program. What are the differences between them?
Gosh, that's a good question. I mean, I know, I'm not sure if, like clean energy technologies and that expansion are available in SoCal Edison or SoCal Gas on their OBF programs. But the general like ethos of being bill neutral and having your loan applied or paid off through the bill is essentially the same. So they're structured very, very similarly. But some of the extra nuances of adding kind of EV charging and battery storage, I'm not sure those are available in the Southern California utility territories.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from our attendees? Is there anything that our group wants to share about? Any exciting projects on the horizon, or what are you looking forward to, I guess? That's my personal question since we have a couple minutes.
The county of Santa Barbara doesn't have any specific OBF projects in the pipeline, but we do have two existing building transformations occurring where we're doing a lot of electrification and EV charging and solar PPAs. So the Santa Maria Admin Building, which is where the Board of Supervisors meets, we completing a rooftop package unit replacement for heat pumps, and here at the General Services headquarters, Casa Nueva in Santa Barbara, we're doing the same, and with a new EV charging station project and solar PPAs. So we get to cap the gas lines in two of our buildings, which is kind of a ceremonial moment in time. Not full removal, but just putting a cap there, just in case someday in 20 years things change, who knows? But really exciting projects.
And the airport is wrapping up its sustainability and decarbonization plan. So, like Brandon is saying, electrifying some of those buildings. We hope to be doing that here at the airport. And we actually had a couple interesting projects that are coming out of this, like LED lighting that we're going to need to do. And we thought LED lighting was completed here, but apparently not. And like Brandon doing some EV chargers, definitely looking at the APCD funding for that. And we're about a week away from finishing our 940 megawatt solar carport canopy system in the main parking lot. So next time you fly in and out of SPP, you'll be able to park under our system that will be providing more than 100% of our consumption needs here.
That's awesome. Great work by both you and the teams of the counties. Um, Such a great way to close it out. Well, thank you both. Thank you to the Verergy team and to everyone for joining today. We will send out the recording and slides shortly. And yeah, wish you all a great rest of your Tuesday and week.